11.2. My last novel is the best work I can do. You'll hear an interview with William Boyd, the author of A Good Man in Africa, Armadillo, The Blue Afternoon, An Ice Cream War, and Brazzaville Beach. Fill each box with a word or short phrase.
My name is William Boyd, and I'm a novelist. I also write short stories and scripts for films.
And how did you start?
I started really when I went to university. I did a lot of journalism, a lot of student journalism. I was not the TV critic, the film critic and the theatre critic of the university newspaper. Nice job. And but I wrote a lot of stories, and I actually wrote a novel while I was at university, which I never published or never tried to publish. It was an autobiographical novel all about me, and had to get it out of my system. But it was really my university days that saw the beginning of my writing career. I think also maybe deep down I realized I could never work for anybody. I was destined to be a freelance. And the wonderful thing about a writing life, or being a novelist, is it is the ultimate one-man band, and you are completely free. And I think that's, if I had to sum up, what does writing mean to me in one word, it would be freedom.
Oh, that's nice. That's lovely. And I mean, on a typical day when you're actually writing, are you quite disciplined with yourself? Quite
disciplined. I mean, when I'm writing a novel, I try to write every day, but sometimes you can't because you've got a life to live, and the central heating needs fixed, or you've got to go and do some shopping or something. But I try to write every day, as many days of the week as is possible. And I don't have any rigid discipline, like I sit down at my desk at 8 o'clock and rise from it at 11:30 for a cup of coffee. I can write for about 3 to 4 hours, and sometimes that's in the morning. So more recently, I find that something's happened to my biorhythms or something. I find I'm writing more in the afternoon now, after lunch. From sort of 2 to 6 is my normal stint. But of course, as the novel goes on and I get more and more caught up in it, I begin to work longer days and 7 days a week, until by the end it's kind of a frantic 16-hour day going on.
Now, how do you come upon your characters?
Well, sometimes they just suggest themselves to you. Sometimes they're maybe drawn from bits of life. I'm not an autobiographical writer, so I don't use my own life and the people I know as material for my fiction. And sometimes you just have to sit down and invent them. I've written from the point of view of a woman, and I knew that I knew that was the first thing, and then I had to think, well, what kind of woman would she be? And so I just invented her personality and her physical appearance. And I think I am very much that type of writer. I do use my imagination. I don't go to life for inspiration. I'm quite happy to sit and dream, in a way, dream up things. And then there's another whole question of making them seem lifelike. But a lot of it is a conscious act of choice. And it's very much a question of me deciding and of just setting my imagination to work.
In Brazzaville Beach, I loved the way that you were able to write as Hope Clearwater, and she was so real. She was just like, she was like a woman. I mean, was that difficult to write?
Well, it was a difficult process to get to the right method, and I think I have found the right method, and I think it works both ways. I think if you were a woman wanting to write from the point of view of a man, you should adopt the same method I did, which was to forget all questions of masculinity and femininity, to forget gender completely, and to concentrate entirely on personality. And I think it's a kind of, we're a bit knee-jerk in the way we think, oh, women are sensitive and warm and giving, and men cannot commit and are cold and are frightened of their emotions. Well, that's a generalization. You can't write a novel based on generalization. So the more precise you are, the more idiosyncratic the character is, the more real he or she will appear in the novel.
What do you really enjoy about what you do?
Well, I think the main thing I enjoy about it is my complete and absolute self-sufficiency. And I'm also deeply conscious of how lucky I am to be able to be, as Chekhov said, a free artist. I don't live in a country that's oppressed. I am uncensored. I can earn a living at what I want to do more than anything else in the world. I can decide not to work one day or work flat out for 3 months. And I think it's that absolute liberation, that absolute autonomy that is the thing I cherish most, and which I would think I would feel most unhappy about if it was removed. As a result, I don't take it for granted. And then there's the compensation of being an artist practicing your art form, which has its bad days and its exhilarating days. But I think it's really within the context of this absolute freedom and autonomy that makes it, so fulfilling.
Is there anything you don't like about being a novelist?
Well, I've got lots of grumbles and complaints, but really, I think they're pathetic.
No, I'm sure
I remember once being asked a question, and I was giving a reading, and somebody said, do you suffer for your art? And I immediately said, but of course I do. And then I thought, hang on a minute, what exactly what suffering what suffering are we talking about here? So I really think it's a luxury to complain, and maybe if I was suffering from a terrible writer's block, or if I was constantly being trashed by the critics and couldn't sell a copy, then I would be a more tormented soul. But the little, slings and arrows of outrageous fortune that you encounter in the writing life are as nothing beside the more serious injustices and grievances that the world hands out. So I think those of us who moan and complain about, it's so hard and so difficult, really don't know they're living.
Can you write anywhere? Can you write here, or do you prefer writing in a particular location?
No, I can write just about anywhere, and I think this is something because I started writing in universities and university libraries, people wandering around or whispering, and so I've never needed solitude. And I still write in libraries. I still go to library to write sometimes. I also work in my house, in my study, but if the phone rings, I'll answer it. If somebody knocks at the door, I'll break off and go and answer the door. And I've written on planes and in cafes and, hotel rooms, all sorts of things. So I don't need those kind of, special conditions, which I think are actually an excuse for not working.
Do you write freehand or put it all on your laptop?
Well, I write my novels. The first draft I write in longhand, in pencil. It's very low tech, because I think there's something missing if there isn't a manuscript stage. I mean, this is just for my case. I think that there's something about the head, the hand, the page link, which is fundamental to writing prose. And I suspect, or certainly for me, but I suspect it's to do with things like sentence length and inner rhythm and cadence to a sentence, and also the act of crossing out and the act of inserting other words on the screen of a computer. That's gone. It always looks pretty much perfect. But you can see on a manuscript, just from the scribblings and the second thoughts and the third thoughts, the whole process of your fiction evolving. And it's a very curious indication about something that's going well or something that's going badly. If you've written 5 lines, for example, in longhand, and you haven't put a full stop, there's something at the back of your mind saying, this sentence is getting far too long. You never get that feeling if you're typing it onto a screen on a computer, because everything is there but not there and endlessly malleable. But you've made those marks on the page, and there's something about that act which I still feel is fundamental to my fiction writing. And so even though I've been using a computer now for 7 years, and I write journalism on it and screenplays and so on, whenever I start a novel or a short story or work of fiction, I always do the first draft in longhand, and then I type it onto the screen and edit it on the screen.
And when you're writing, do you write in your head to an individual, or are you writing to the world?
No, I think you probably write for yourself. I think that you write the books you would like to read. And I think it's always a mistake to try and second guess your ideal reader, because you will possibly not be true to yourself, your sincerity, your integrity. I think you have to really do what you want to do and not what you think you ought to do. And that way, even if the book is, let's say, terrible and an awful failure, at least you will have been true to yourself, and you've got no one else to blame.
Have you got one of your novels that's your favourite?
I have a sort of an answer to this, which is a bit of a cop-out, or it seems a bit of, but I actually
think... You've been asked this before.
I have been asked this before, but I always give the same answer, which sounds a bit of a... but I think that if I had to choose one book to represent me, as it were, for posterity, it would always be my last book. Because I think that, I know, but it's true, because in a writerly sense, everything that's in your last book is as good as I can get at the moment. I mean, people I've written 7 novels now, and some people like my first novel better than any other. Some people like my 4th novel better. But from my point of view, I know that my last novel, Armadillo, is the best work I can do at the moment, though it's going to be supplanted by the novel I'm going to write next, of course, which is going to be, in writerly terms, better, more sophisticated, more mature. I'm more experienced. I've learnt more. And that may not be evident in the success of the novel or the apparent perceived success of the novel, but it will be evident to me as the writer of it.
Does it surprise you still that you have that ability?
Sometimes you are amazed at what you have thought up, because it's spontaneous in the act of writing. It's something unplanned. I do plan everything in advance. I sit down to write chapter 5 and I start writing it, and I get an idea out of the blue, and everything changes. So it's almost functioning independently sometimes of me, and that's when I'm astonished, and I think, what on earth made me think of that?
But it's exciting.
Yes, it is. And you hope it won't go away. That's the other thing. You hope this faculty will remain with you and will, in a way, continue to enrich what you write.